This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. SuperGreen stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome to SuperGreen Live, the biggest event of the year at the intersection of climate solutions and impact crowdfunding. Upgrade now to VIP for just $25 to get the full experience. VIP tickets include access to and a listing in the VIP directory, a backstage pass during 24 hours of live programming, 3 VIP networking sessions, speaker slides and handouts, and an invitation to the private LinkedIn group. Scan the QR code now.
Raising capital, it's not just marketing, it's securities law. Most deals, they don't fail because of the returns that are offered.
They fail because of compliance mistakes.
And that's what we do
Every day, we help entrepreneurs raise money the right way.
before problems ever start. If you're raising capital,
Talk to crowdfunding lawyers first.
Digital Niche Agency is the top investor acquisition agency. DNA has helped founders raise over 9 figures via regulated investment crowdfunding with a 3-pronged strategy using digital advertising, content marketing, and strategic outreach. Book a call today.
Hello, my name is Brian Figueroa. I'm the CEO of Green Tech. We're a renewable energy development company that specializes on cutting-edge technologies like graphene batteries. Get back with me at brian@greentech.io, TEK.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gene Massey with Media Shares, an equity crowdfunding marketing agency, and we're happy to be participating in SuperGreen Live.
Green to Gold and the Super Crowd wish to thank our supporting sponsors, Azure Printed Homes and Little Toes, for their financial support. We similarly extend gratitude to our media sponsors, Regenerative Media TV and Community 3.0X. SuperGreen Live is hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Green to Gold in partnership with the Super Crowd, Inc., a public benefit corporation. You can make a tax-deductible donation to support our climate-focused collaboration at 4sc.fund/donate or by scanning the QR code. Help us accelerate climate solutions now. Welcome to the SuperGreen Live. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, our co-host, and our other co-host, Alan Tratner, will be right here with us in a few minutes. But wow, we have had so much fun. We've seen so much inspiring content over the past 2 days. You know, we had the super fun live pitch last night, and at the live pitch, we had an unprecedented tie for the Super Crowd Award. We had, the judges really had to wrestle themselves to the ground to pick a winner for their choice. It was really a dramatic, fun evening. Great companies pitching there. Of course, we had 10 companies at Demo Day on Thursday. What inspiring companies there. And we've had some incredibly thought-provoking panel discussions. We've had inspiring keynotes. It's just been a dream. Today, we're going to continue so much more fun. We had Izzy Francis perform on Thursday. We've got a couple more performers coming today. It really will be a spectacular day, and I'm so excited that we'll have all this fun. Holy cow. Let me just introduce a theme for the day, if I may. We have an incredible outline today, but I want to encourage you to join the movement. And I want to be clear. When I talk about joining the movement, it isn't something you watch or observe or see. It's something you do. And let's talk about how you do this movement. It isn't about a purity test or ideology, right? There are so many different ways to approach being green, right? We'll have a speaker today whose focus is on nature, the preservation and conservation of nature. Humans tend to just creep ever further into nature, reducing dramatically the area of nature. He'll be talking about that. He's much less concerned than some of the others with the climate per se, right? And so it's interesting. So again, no purity test, no absolute ideology. We all need to come at this in doing what we want to, what we can do. And we certainly don't want people feeling guilty for what they're not doing. We want you to feel proud of and engaged in what you do. We do have some things that we can do that can help you do better at the Super Crowd and at Green to Gold. So Green to Gold is a nonprofit incubator that helps startups, both nonprofits and for-profit enterprises, get going and scale if they have a sustainability climate solution kind of activity. And Alan can tell you more about that. But if you're an entrepreneur wanting to make a difference in the world, I encourage you to explore that with Alan to see if that might be something that you want to do. If you're interested in learning more about how you can continue to be an investor entrepreneur, I encourage you to subscribe to the Super Crowd, to our newsletter. It's called Superpowers for Good. It's published every day. For those who don't like that much email, you can subscribe to the Saturday only weekly digest that my colleague Chandon gratefully prepares for us with all our great content for the week. We also have monthly webinars, all kinds of content that we're creating to help you feel like you can be an impact investor with a sustainability focus. So we have resources in these organizations to help you become active, to become a doer in this space. I want to point out that yesterday we talked extensively about impact crowdfunding, that is regulated investment crowdfunding with an impact. And I really tried to drive home the point that it's something we can all do and we can all do now. I challenged everyone to take their first $10 and invest it at Climatize yesterday. I hope some of you did that. I hope everyone did it. The opportunities to invest are real. We can profit from participation in climate solutions. That is an exciting reality. There's a little bit of cognitive dissonance that happens when we talk about doing good and doing well personally. Our brains traditionally think of one or the other. And when we talk about doing both at once, our brains literally, this is not a figment of your imagination. It's real. Your brain says, wait a minute, that doesn't work. That's not how it works. Yes, it is how it works, even if your brain doesn't like it. So hang in there and keep trying. I encourage you to try some crowdfunding. It is a key way that you can do and make a difference. But of course, there are all kinds of things that you can do. Yesterday Nicole Whalen, one of our speakers, referred to something I love. It was her economic ballot, right? That everything she does with her wallet is a way of voting. So, of course, I like to think about investing, but certainly everywhere we shop should be climate informed, right? We should at least be thinking about that whenever we make a purchase. Where we bank, right? There are some banks that are really climate friendly and are proud of that. Others are not. Be climate aware. I encourage you to think about who you vote for when you vote for in an election. Around the world, we all need more climate thoughtful leaders at the local level, at national level. We all need to be thinking about how the climate influences what we're doing and how we want policy to work. We can advocate for different policies as well with the leaders we've got. And one of the speakers today that we'll have, it's Sam Daly Harris, will talk about this important message that we have of using our influence to make policy changes. And let me just tell you, he has been successful in saving millions of lives around the world by using his the activist toolkit that he will share with us today. Millions of people are alive because they implemented his plans. He'll walk you through that, I'm sure, but just be aware that all of these things work. Whether we're talking about investing, shopping, banking, who we vote for, and our activism for policy changes, there are opportunities for us to make a difference in so many ways. I want to encourage you to think about how you can engage and begin taking active steps. I hope you will leave SuperGreen Live as an impact investor. It's just such a wonderful opportunity to add that piece to what I suspect you're already doing. But wherever you are, I encourage you to explore opportunities to behave, to do more in the vein of being part of the super green movement, to do more to protect the environment. Think about how much you drive. Think about what you drive, when you use public transportation, when you fly, all the things that are using energy. Think about whether or not solar could be a part of your home. I'm excited to have the solar guy coming to my house to install the solar on Monday. I'm just giddy with excitement about that. I want you to explore all the options, right? Think about all the different things you can do, and don't feel guilty for what you can't do. Be proud of what you choose to do, but move in this direction. Take action doing something. And maybe it's the activism that and really emboldens you. You get excited about that. Pick up that ball that Sam Daly Harris that we'll talk about today and use that tool. But whatever you want to do, I encourage you to do something. Choose something, take that action, and make that into a habit. Become consistent in the way you do it. I'm proud to be an active investor, right? So I'm making at least a monthly investment for impact, most often for climate. And I've been doing this for years. So now I have a big portfolio of nearly 100 different investments, most of them climate friendly, all for impact. I'm very proud of this, and I hope that you'll be able to do that as well. I am now excited. I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, our co-host, Professor Alan Tratner. He is the founder of Green to Gold, our co-hosting organization. It's a 501c3 nonprofit that he formed decades ago. Alan helped organize the original Earth Day back in 1970 and has devoted his entire life and career to climate solutions. I just couldn't be more proud and honored to partner with Alan on this event, and I'm excited now to turn the time over to him. Alan, welcome. Take it away.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you so much. Greetings, fellow Earthlings. I am on a natural high on this grand finale, third day of Super Green Live. The amazing technicians and technology and methodology and invention and innovation that we've been showcasing, the funding resources and how to do it right and how to achieve ROI, which is not just money ROI, it's return on your investment that protects the biosphere of Spaceship Earth. What we're all the life support system of this wonderful planet that gives us all and millions of other species. And we're out of balance and we're out of sync with the life support system. And part of what this is all about and why we did Super Green Live is essentially to bring that harmony and balance back to the planet and defeat climate change and mitigate it and make a difference in stopping polluting our planet. But most important, the opportunity to create a utopia. What I've been calling ever since Earth Day and why I got involved in creating our Green to Gold incubator was I wanted to foster a transition for everyone to total sustainability, regenerative everything, and a kind of inclusive global green economy that will lift everybody up and give them hope and eliminate poverty, eliminate the destruction of the biosphere, get us back into balance. And this has all been about solutions, this entire event, in every way imagined. In fact, what was striking to me, separate from the entrepreneurs and the inventors and the people that are creating the technologies that we have now and on the near horizon that will rescue what we're doing, they're all opportunities for us to make. And Devin just pointed out that one of the most powerful things you can do as a consumer, separate from being an investor or inventor, an entrepreneur, whatever, or in your workplace, is the choices that you make as a consumer every day. Support companies and projects with your purchasing power for your daily groceries and fuel and energy and everything else that you do, recreation. Go on eco, resort type trips and try to do those kinds of things. The power of that, as well as the ballot box and your local voting and national and statewide, whatever it may be, the chance to get people that are really truly advocating for the planet and for green economy. It is the most important thing you can do, and it's so exciting. What really struck me about the last 2 days was that we also showcased community-based institutions that were nonprofit. Part of what I do in Green to Gold from day one with Earth Day is that we were a nonprofit and we went that way, and we've been incubating. We're probably the only one on the planet. Some 333 nonprofits are socially and environmentally responsible, wonderful synergy, symbiotic relationship between the mothership, Green to Gold, and our for-profits and our nonprofits, always trying to foster that. But these community-based efforts that we've been showcasing have been amazing in what they're achieving, and that is also with the help of state and local governmental agencies that are advocating for that change. Separate from the craziness of the US federal government right now that everybody has recognized, the rest of the world is moving forward on the challenges and the opportunities of climate change. To solve that will also give us good green jobs and whole new industries that benefit everybody and our food security our energy security, nature-based energy and all the incredible technologies that are already there, and energy storage and purifying water and stopping pollution in the first place and recycling everything in a circular economy, a bio-based economy. All that is right in front of us, and this is starting to happen and has been happening while we've watched the increase of climate-driven disasters that everybody is feeling. There's no denying the storms that are happening in the United States right now that are going to be record, blizzards and snowfall and all the droughts and tornadoes and hurricanes and floods and everything else that are going on this planet at unprecedented levels are driven by climate change. And it has an effect. Buildings, thousands of buildings being destroyed, lives being disrupted and lost, and injuries, our pets being affected by those kinds of disasters. All of that can be rescued. We just got to pull together, nationally, internationally together, which is happening, and also real locally in your own communities. And what we were focusing on were all those solutions, all mixed in a matrix that makes a difference. And how do you fund that? That's why this was about capital. Capital makes up for what might be not available at this time in a federal USA level. But then there's the philanthropic foundations for the nonprofits that are stepping up and doing that, and corporations that are doing sponsorship that even helped us put on this event. We are certainly appreciative of that situation. People making a difference so that we can all help everybody make a difference and live in a utopic world that is in total harmony and balance. And that's why I'm so up on that natural high of what we're doing with SuperGreen Live and what Devin and his incredible team have done to produce this, all the months of planning and then pulling this off, and the entertainers that touch our heart and touch our mind and tell us with the words and their music about what can be achieved, and making us feel great about what we're doing as activists. In everyday life, just living and caring about these things makes a difference. In the education of the children in the schools, they're the whole segment that has been rising to this and telling their parents, look what's happening. We're polluting, we're changing the climate, we have disasters and everything else. Let's do something about it. The kids are amazing, and they understand it, they get it. They're the future generation that's inheriting this, and we can make that difference for now and in the midterm and the long term about Spaceship Earth. And, we're all passengers and the crew of Spaceship Earth, and we have to keep the life support systems going. And we have the technology, we have the inventiveness, the innovation, the creativity, the genius, the planning, the business acumen that we're learning about in SuperGreen Live that makes all this difference. So I can't tell you how exciting it is. This is the third day. There's so much to enjoy today. There's an amazing sustainable fashion show and about all the leaders and designers and people about that entire industry and how it affects the environment and how it can change and is being changed by these leaders and other kinds of solutions and capital. Just an amazing another day, and plus our wonderful entertainers that are coming, giving their time and their support to SuperGreen Live. So Devin, I'm so proud to work with you on this whole project, and hopefully a lot more in the future to make this impact happen. And all of you, I encourage you, digest this. If you missed Thursday and Friday at all for any reason at work or school or whatever it is, or the blizzards or whatever's going on, it's all there. It's going to be the whole days are there for you to watch and listen and enjoy and act on. It's always, enjoy, learn, discover, and act. That really is part of what happens and why we do these kinds of events. This is an unprecedented event to bring capital together specifically about climate change solutions. So I can't thank everyone enough. As we say here in Hawaii, I'm in Lahaina where the terrible disaster happened, climate-driven incineration of a whole city right into the harbor and the boats and everything else. And all I can say is mahalo to you, which is a deep, rich thank you and goodbye for a moment. I'll be back many times today in different segments, and just enjoy, sop this up, enjoy it, and get your friends, your associates, your family members to tune in. Let them be part of this whole movement to change where we're going, the trajectory of this planet to a more balanced and harmonious way for all of us to live. And of course, we have to eliminate the worst pollution of all is warfare between our own species and against all the other species and the environment. That's one of the mega things that doesn't get often talked about, but we can solve that, politically, and just not accepting the continuous battling between humans and the planet. We need to stop that. That's one of the biggest pollution issues of all together. It also affects climate change, of course, all the terrible toxic gases. But we're here for all those solutions. There are people that clean that up and prevent all that from happening. So again, thank you so much. Mahalo to you all. I want you to enjoy, and you'll get an introduction right now, our live music presentation right now.
Thanks, Alan. What a great message. What a great message. And this is going to be such a fun day. I look forward to that fashion show that you and Patricia will be hosting. And yeah, we've got all kinds of fashion designers presenting there, and some fashion related content throughout the day. This is really going to be a fun day. I'm excited for it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the work you're doing. We'll see you on stage a lot today, so thank you. I'm really excited now to introduce our next performer. Omashar is an amazing musician who grounds his music and work in a desire to bring peace to the planet, and really has a love of nature and wants to be in harmony with that. And so his music, I think, will resonate with all of us as people who are interested in climate solutions and wanting to make a difference in the world. Omashar, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. We can't see you.
That's interesting. It should be there. The video's working.
I'm so sorry. It would be so fun to see you.
No, we will.
Let me just suggest that you refresh your browser to reset your connection. We'll pop you right back in, get you on stage. I'm sorry for the technical problems, folks, but Omashar is really a talented musician, and I'm really super excited for this presentation. Omashar, you're good.
I am good, but for some reason I've disappeared into the small. I'll almost be with you, beloved friends. What's happened to my? There we go.
Have you found yourself now? We can see you. You look good.
You can. For some reason, my whole thing is moved. So let's try that. Oh, I know why. We've gone into how bizarre. Excuse me, guys.
It's all right.
Why has that happened?
But while Omashar is working on that, let me tell you that you can find Omashar's work on YouTube and Spotify. Search for Omashar Music on YouTube. It'll pop right up. He's got a popular channel there. Also available on Spotify and other music places. So I encourage you to check it out. Omashar is a super talented guy, and I really look forward to hearing from him. It's going to be great. So don't. There we go, Omashar.
All right, I've changed my. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I changed my camera for some reason. My multi-million-dollar camera is messed up, and so it just said no, I don't want to be here. So I'm back on my Mac, Facebook.
Totally fine.
Anyway, so here we go. I'm so grateful to be with you. Grateful to be wearing two hats at the SuperGreen Live, because I was also on the demo day with a company called Sunny Thermal, solarheatedrocks.com. But my main passion is music, and I have 4 songs I'm going to share with you. And this first one is called Freedom Comes with Letting Go. And I was really grateful to be a part of a delegation. We went to Hiroshima on International Peace Day in 2024 with a group called Unity Earth. And what happened was we played a peace concert in Hiroshima, And this song was the song that I sang. So hopefully it's all coming through absolutely beautifully right now. Yes, I think it is. Ooh, darn it. Why is it all gone weird? There we go. All right. The open roads of this brand new start, the peace that flows through this loving heart, and freedom comes with letting go. This life renewed, new seeds to sow. Take my hand, I'm with you now. Relax yourself, your furrowed brow. The past is gone, so say hello. No looking back, onward we go. This is the life awaiting us, with family supporting us. The sword of truth has cleared the way for us to rise our brand new day. New mountain peaks for us to climb, new roads to walk, no reason why. It's time to know that we are one with all of life, a golden sun. This is the life awaiting us, with family supporting us. The sword of truth has cleared the way for us to rise our brand new day. Cause freedom comes with letting go. wait for a new seeds to sow. Whoa. Well, well, how wonderful. I have two dance songs. This next song is a little dance song, so it's actually called Out of the Blue, and it talks about our ancestors. Did they just disappear in the blue, or are they guiding us today to a better future? And one thing I didn't mention was I love that Alan said, called us Spaceship Earth, because there's not many formats or forums that you can actually use that vernacular. So here we are on Spaceship Earth, and we know that she is precious, and we are here to help her through every avenue possible, come back into total health, of course, beginning with ourselves. And so this song is called Out of the Blue, and put your headphones on and get up and dance. Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream we know to be true, and reaching their hands back out of the blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. Okay, Devon, here we go. Dance, brother. Ba-da-dum-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum. There's nothing here to hold me back from you. The clouds of my life have blown away. My light is a being lifts me every day. I find myself feeling not so blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. Well, that's fun. I like that one. It always gets me charged up. And that's kind of a retro feel. That is like, I don't know, disco, 90s. I don't know. It just comes to me. All this music just comes to me. I lay no claim to ownership. I'm just an open channel, as we all are, for the brilliance of the mind of the creator coming into all of our efforts. And SuperGreen Live is showcasing how we are turning the world around. And this song is called Still We Wonder Why. And it's basically about how you wake up in the morning and you're a child and you're aware of all the beauty everywhere, and still we wonder why. So we have this and one more very up-tempo dance song. So thank you for listening. And I'm going to put myself back in a cave and see what happens. All right. Light brighter than the sun. Here where life is but all the past falls like rain into the sun of future dreams. Love, the footprint in the sand. Eyes shining like the sun, and the way is suddenly so clear, and we know what has to be done, and still we wonder why flowers keep on blooming. The stardust in our eyes lifts us all to a higher plane, a deeper truth, our rightful place, and still we wonder why. Life, a promise to fulfill. Now, a vision is revealed, and the blessing of who we really are can be felt throughout our world, and still we wonder why flowers keep on blooming. The stardust in our eyes lifts us all to a higher plane, a deeper truth, our rightful place, and still we wonder why. Light brighter than the sun. Here where life is one. Love, the footprint in the sand. Our eyes shining like the star. Still, we wonder why. All right, Super Green Live. This is my last song, and thank you so much for tuning in. This one is called Love the Life You Live. It's really up-tempo, headphones on, speakers up to 11. Watch it on Omashar Music at youtube.com. I've just put a new video up there about a week ago. So thank you for listening. And all right, let's see what happens here. So it's that one, that one. Okay. Are you ready? Creation, life is what you make it. Sometimes you have to fake it to walk upon a new path, to set yourself free. Freedom is our birthright. Together we will take and open the horizons of this new reality. Love the life you live the life you love. Wake up, it's time for us to make up and walk the same direction, the one in which we're rising as one world family. The earth itself is changing, our lives are rearranging to ones of joy and laughter, peace and harmony. Love the life you live the life you love. Bring yourself to life, bring yourself to love. Love the life you live the life you love. Love yourself to life, give yourself to love. And now the choice is made, we hear the call to freedom. Our lives will reveal there are no shadows, no cold. Here we go. This nation, the one in which we're living, the one in which we're loving, the one in which we're giving our life force to all. Our sisters and our brothers are lifting one another, respecting all of nature and seeing the you and me, seeing the you and me, seeing the you and me. Seeing you and me. Love the life you live the life you love. Bring yourself to life, bring yourself to love. Love the life you live the life you love. Love yourself to life, give yourself to love. Creation, freedom, wake up, this nation, one more time. There we have it. Love the life you live. Thank you, Super Green Live. Thank you, Devin. Thank you, Alan, and everybody on the Super Green Live team, because takes a village to put this on. I know the Magi is Devin. However, it takes a village. Thank you.
Yeah, it does take a village. It takes a big team. And Omashar, we sure appreciate you. What beautiful music. Fun, upbeat, uplifting, perfect for Super Green Live. Thank you
Good.
so much. We
It's
really
it's
appreciate you
amazing
being
how
here.
we deal with all the technical glitches and remain centered, present, and calm at the same time. And thank you for that reflection. So I'll enjoy the rest of the show. I know Prince is coming up next. So blessings to everybody. Thank you for letting me present. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you very, very much. I am excited now to introduce our next speaker, which is Prince Ace. Prince is the CEO and founder of Cineblock Films, a crowdfunding portal for filmmakers. And one of the films that is raising capital on the platform right now is very climate centric. I'm excited to have him on the show. And so, Prince, welcome. We're thrilled to have you.
Thanks again. Always
Yeah.
love being a part of your stuff, Devin. You're a really great guy.
Well, it's not about me, but thank you very much. I appreciate those kind thoughts. But we are just thrilled you would take time out of your busy schedule on a Saturday to do this. Um, Congratulations on launching the portal. Lots of great offerings already up and raising capital. It's great to see. Um, do you have slides you'd like to share today?
No, I don't have any slides. The slides probably wouldn't really have done any justice. I'm just going to kind of talk about a few different things. Talk about intro myself, and then talk about what I feel is important for taking back your power as an individual, and that was a play on words there. It was definitely for the Super Green Live. So, it involves that and really just empowering individuals to
Fantastic.
know that they can affect things.
Fantastic. Take it away, my friend.
All right, everybody. So welcome, and I hope you've been enjoying the Super Green Live, all of the different speeches and performances, and much more to come. And looking forward to engaging with those guys as well as we talk about good things that we can all do for the future to help humanity and help ourselves. And that's part of our message too here. So my name is Prince Ace. I'm with Cineblock Films. We recently launched a crowdfunding portal that specifically is for entertainment media, right? So we want people to basically be able to be empowered to curate what they see on their television by using their dollars. And that's part of the conversation I'm going to have here is about how you can go from an outsider to an insider on topics and things that you're passionate about that you might not have known that you could become an insider on. And then two, about Cineblock Films, what we're doing, what we're building, and where we're going. And then three, really about what culture is and how to build culture and how we can build culture through our platform as well. So with that being said, I'm the founder of Cineblock. It's kind of like the Robin Hood for movies, films, entertainment, and the like. It's an entertainment platform, a media platform, a marketplace that you can go and find ownership and find real value in this entertainment media space, which is kind of new. Not a lot of people have ever had the opportunity to invest in a film or to invest in a video game or to invest in a concert or a show or some new technology in the entertainment space. So this is what we are about. My background stems from largely finance, software development, and then I did a lot of entertainment media stuff when it came to like making commercials, producing commercials. I produced a movie, produced all kinds of music videos, and I've just been involved in the creative space for a long time. It was kind of my secret identity, my secret hobby that I would do outside of like the corporate world. I would go out and engage in these things, and that's kind of the story how I went from an outsider to an insider in this space. And the first thing that you have to do, and which I had to do myself, is get over the fear and anxiety of being an outsider, right? And wanting to be an insider. So that was the first start. And I'm saying this because this is part of the broader, vision of taking back your power, right? You got to get rid of that fear and anxiety of the things that affect you and things that you care about, and be willing to step in, right? And then you have to find community. Finding a community that is going to encourage you, that is going to support you in your quest, and that is already involved in the spaces that you want to belong or you want to affect, right? So those types of communities are important for, again, taking back your power. You're working with the group, with a community, with people with like minds that are interested in the same things that you're interested in, and will always endeavor to keep you moving in the right direction. And then you can't be afraid to engage. That's the other part, right? Like it's one thing to enter a community and then sit in the background and not do anything, right? That's a difficult way to become an insider in anything, right? You got to engage with that community. You got to talk. You've got to express your opinions. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, right? And then engage with that community, and that's how you learn, right? You get feedback, and then you get experience, right? And you can do this on a fringe level. You don't have to be a professional to do this. You can do this as someone who is a casual, as someone who just enjoys something. So don't be afraid that you're not, super knowledgeable about a specific topic or a specific thing, but you still want to be a part of it. Don't be afraid to engage. So those are my three key places that I want you to focus on when it comes to becoming an insider, going from an outsider to an insider, and taking back your power. So we want you to take back your power. So the reason I chose this title, obviously, is this is a Super Green Live platform, and I want people to kind of get the feel of like, hey, let's find ways to affect our lives and for the betterment of humanity. And obviously climate change and all of these things have been a big topic of conversation for a long time. So that was the reason why I chose this title. I want people to take their power back in the literal sense, right? And that includes alternate forms of energy. Like I'm a big believer in alternative energy, and people that can kind of find their way to live off the grid. Like that's really cool stuff. So being able to kind of jump into those type of spaces is really fun for me. I've done it myself, and I have my own plans and thoughts of how I can do that by using solar and by all these things. I watched Inconvenient Truth, and I've watched a lot of other things on documentaries on these types of topics. So I might not take all of it, but I do take it with a grain of salt. I want to help, and I want to help in my own little way. So those are kind of some of the things I also want to talk about, in that culture is a big part of impact, right? When we think about things like An Inconvenient Truth, another favorite documentary of mine is Blackfish, right? Culture really affects people at large, and it really dictates how people think and kind of open up conversations about stuff. So remember that you always want to be looking for ways to enhance culture that other people can take advantage of and learn from, including for your progeny. So that's that's what I would say is kind of a big marquee part of our platform. So Cineblock Films is a Reg CF marketplace for entertainment media investing. And creators, filmmakers, producers, game developers, can present their media projects, right, directly to the public. And for the first time, well, actually, it's not the first time, but for us, in terms of an entertainment media's platform and space, people can directly invest in these projects and influence what gets seen on TV, and what gets seen on your screens. And that is kind of a unique proposition, right? So the idea would be like these very powerful, ideas and thoughts that these artists or journalists come up with. They get to now get capital and get actual support, financial support, not just a donation of sorts, but an actual real contribution that they're investing in it. And that's a very different action. When somebody invests in you, that means that they are believing in you enough to want to be a part of it, as well as want to see you succeed so that way they succeed. There's a different incentive mechanism versus just giving a donation for $100 and saying, I wish you well, right? So we're looking to change the mindset of people and the way that they interact with culture and media at large. And the real thing is, like, there's only a couple of ways that people really can do that with their power. And these are two items that I think are very important, right? One is voting, right? You got to be able to vote because voting allows you, from a political standpoint, to exercise your power, right? And then the second way, I always say, is because it's just what this country, is about, is like, hey, we believe in the power of a dollar. Shout out to 50 Cent. We believe in the power of a dollar, right? Like, if you put your money to something, that means that's a different type of vote. That's a financial vote. That means you're believing in something in a real way, that you're willing to put your hard earned cash, your blood, sweat, and tears into seeing that thing succeed. And that's a very powerful statement, right? So these Reg CF platforms allow for those types of things, for you to actually, as a crowd, as part of the crowd, to invest in what you want to see come alive. And for us, now you're investing in, like we say, in what you watch and what you see. Like, your power to affect what gets shown on the screen is now right in your dollar, in your hands, and you get the benefit of ownership, right? So again, this is really what Cineblock Films is about giving you power, giving our creators autonomy and agency. They're allowed, now they get to, look for alternative means of financing that allow them to move their project forward. They don't have to rely on, mortgaging their homes and going to unscrupulous individuals that would take advantage of them. They can look to the crowd, to people that believe in what they're doing, that are looking to potentially go from an outsider to an insider in this space, and allow those people to have a benefit and have the upside and potential profits of their of their creative and artistic endeavor, right? So that's a big part of what we believe in. This also gives people access, right? Access that they didn't necessarily have in the past, right? You didn't necessarily have access to being able to invest in films and video games. Like, that's a kind of a new concept, right? So we want that to be a theme that goes throughout this, is that now everyday people, everyday fans and audiences, people that are just movie lovers, and people that are, kind of a little bit adventurous as well, get the opportunity to directly invest in the stuff that they already would have probably gone and watched anyway, right? So now I'm going to kind of talk about the building of culture. I've got, earned my stripes in this space, and I made a movie, and it was it was a difficult endeavor, I'll just to say the least. And finding money was very tough. And but the subject matter was interesting to me, and I had never made a movie before. One of my good friends, shout out to Monty, he reached out to me and he asked me, he said, "Hey, I'm making this movie. I'd like to, I need to get it done. I know you're, kind of doing stuff in the media space, and if you could help me to get it finished, I would appreciate it." So I came in as an executive producer, and we got the film in the can. And, for me, that was a very eye-opening experience because I had never seen like kind of the underbelly of what it took to make movies, and I had never really been a part of the process from start to finish. I had been involved in making a lot of other productions, commercials, and things like that, but this was my first, venture into the movie space. So, again, I went from an outsider to an insider. I wasn't afraid to start something, to jump in, to be a part of a community, and then engage with that community at a high level. So, that's part of it. But again, back to building culture. So, this part for me was let me have my like kind of light bulb moment in the idea that I want other people to have this experience of being a part of something that they, believe in or that they find interesting, and and allow their dollar them to put their dollars where where their mouth is, right? So that's how I kind of came up with the idea for Cineblock Films, and from there, I reached out to my good friends, and they were college friends of mine, and you know, shot them the idea, and I was like, "Hey, like, what do you think?" And before that, I thought they might laugh at me. I thought they might call me crazy, but no, they said, "Hey, this is a great idea. Let's work with this. Let's help you put this together." And from there, we formed a team, and we brought on some other really great people to help us get to this point. And now anybody like we right now our first film offering is up for grabs. It's Awake. It's an AI film. It's about this game developer. But I'm gonna let you watch the trailer. Go to cineblockfilms.com and watch the trailer. But you can invest directly in this film. You can own a piece of it. You get part of the upside. And now that film offering is available. We also have a bunch of other projects that are coming up, including one called Wanderlust Los Angeles by Tiana Pong. She's a model, actress, producer, and she has this really great project about that touches on the wildfires that happened in LA, and how that affected even her close friends and people that were in the space. And it gives people a chance to kind of get a real inside look at those events that happen. And now, again, in this same spirit of Super Green Live, you get to go from an outsider to insider. You get to be a part of that process and allow this feature documentary to get made, right? So, we have other really great projects that are on there that will allow you to engage and contribute, and be a part of something. And this is really about shaping and molding the future, right? And I say that because everything that your kids are going to see in the future, everything that are generations down the line, it's going to start here. It's going to start now with how you are able to show what we're dealing with and how we deal with these problems that we are facing today, right? So, and TV, film, that's just a great medium for molding and shaping culture. I don't know if people know this, but you know, everything that maybe they do know this, like everything that we ever think to do, we end up doing, and if we look at our, kind of the ideation that comes from film and television, I mean, whether you look at Star Trek or Star Wars, the old stuff, these things were, science fiction until they weren't, right? That's because we affect things. We put our energy into things, and we empower things, and we are individuals with a lot more capabilities than some of us think that we have. Like, we can do things, and I want this platform to be something that allows people to feel their creative juices and to engage in that way, and to fuel their passions, right? So um yeah, let's see here. So the last couple of things I wanted to discuss were just to talk about, ideas that spark conversations, right? Um, and what we do at Cineblock is, we want that type of thing, the ideas that spark conversations to come back, right? We used to call them water cooler talk, right? Like things that you talk about on the water cooler that you found interesting. Now it's probably in digital spaces, but we want people to engage in that way and to have really fun and interesting things that they get to talk about and to participate in and to affect the future and to build the culture. So take back your power, invest in what you watch, visit cineblockfilms.com, and hopefully we'll have a great project for you and you'll have a great time being a part of it. So, all right, there we go, Devin.
Hey, thanks, Prince. You talked a little bit about Inconvenient Truth and Al Gore's movie, and I think it really did catalyze tremendous action. It wasn't just an exercise in art. Not that there's anything wrong with art, but I think it's powerful to think about the impact of storytelling for moving action on climate. And so I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you're part of the Super Green community and the Super Green movement. And I encourage people who are interested as creatives, and I know we have some watching today, to check out the opportunity to invest in and perhaps raise capital from Cineblock for your upcoming project. So again, Prince, great message. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you and wish you all the success.
I appreciate it, Devin. You have a great one, and good luck to everybody on Super Green Live.
All righty. Now, our next speaker is David Myers, and David he's a big deal, and he is focused on preserving nature. And this is something that really resonates with me as an equal partner with climate solutions. If we have a beautiful climate but no nature, I'm not sure how we accomplish that in the first place. But if we could, I'm not sure that's a world we want our children and grandchildren living in. We need that nature, and so he's a savvy guy figuring out how to use finance at scale to preserve nature. This is really a fascinating topic. Stick around. You don't want to miss a minute of this conversation or this of his presentation. David, thank you so much for being with us.
Devin, it's a pleasure. Really exciting event you've got organized here. So,
well, thank you. We're thrilled to have you, and I'll turn the time over to you. You take it away, okay?
Okay, excellent. Well, again, thanks for having me. And just as a quick bit of background, I'm David Myers. I'm the Executive Director of the Conservation Finance Alliance, and I'm going to take you through slides here. I'm going to walk you through what Finance for Nature is about, and give you some examples towards the end. But let's start with a quick question on why do we need to finance nature? Why is it such an issue here? Well, nature provides us enormous value: water services, water regulation, food, pollination for crops, coastal protection. This is a huge ecosystem service that often goes unpaid for. Obviously, climate regulation, Devin was referring to, but a whole range of other incredible value that sometimes we're able to capture a little bit, for example, like the recreation services of nature and things like that. When people look at the importance of nature in the biosphere, it kind of underpins all of the sustainable development goals. And really, without food, water, and protection from disasters, where would we be for poverty reduction and health and well-being, right? So even the economy sits on top of society here. So we need nature. Nature is essential. Why is it so hard to pay for it? And we are not paying for it, and we are not financing it well, and we're not maintaining it well. So part of the problem is that natures are not part of an efficient market system. Generally, these are shared resources. They're often defined as public goods. They're external to a company or a country's accounting system, so they're considered externalities. You don't have to account for the damage or the use of them. They're very complex. Ecosystems are extremely complex, and often the cycles that we try to pay attention to and have to manage are very long term. So we use conservation finance tools to address some of these challenges. One of the approaches is trying to convert some of that economic value to finance streams so that we can capture some of that revenue and use that to help finance nature. Think about financing nature for the long term, because if you save nature this year, that's not good enough. You really need to save it for the future. And then uh, over the long term, we need to align the interests of the different actors involved. And I like to put this graph up. It's a little uh, big picture here, but I mean, and it pertains to not just nature, but generally we have an ongoing challenge to move from private interests and individual benefit to group benefit. So the left axis, how do we go from down here where everyone's looking after themselves to up to the top of that, where we're all looking after each other and benefiting not just the current generation, but future generations as well. And that's this short-term versus long-term thinking. So we're kind of generally built to live in the moment. That's a human trait. But we really need to work together to figure out how to create systems that benefit the most people over the long term, and that's our kind of long-term goal with this with finance. So where do we currently sit with finance for nature? This is a sort of a map of different types of finance flows for nature, and everything in blue basically comes from the public sector, from governments, and governments are uniquely positioned to put in place general taxes, and those taxes capture some of that value that nature provides in a way that private markets have a harder time doing it. Some of the private sources of funding are in green and yellow here, so you can see impact investing, sustainable supply chains, biodiversity offset. These are all tools that can finance nature. So maybe what we have right now, it's been estimated to be about $200 billion a year that we're spending on nature, which comes into about 0.2% of global GDP. So, 0.2%. What we need has been estimated to be 400 billion, 700, 900 billion a year. So much, much more than what we have. And if you look at subsidies, these are government subsidies, government spending that is harmful to nature or general. So it includes fossil fuel subsidies that are, causing excess use of uh, fuel and polluting the atmosphere for climate. You have agricultural subsidies that are harmful to nature, forestry, fisheries. So compared to what we're spending on nature, we're spending huge amount more, and that's just from the public sector, right? And then if you look at the global spending on a whole, even if we had the ideal amount, or around $800 billion a year, that's that thin little sliver of green amidst a global spending of the rest of what we spend. And it's been estimated by the World Economic Forum that about half of global GDP is dependent on nature. So here we have a world dependent on nature, and we're not spending adequately. And what we've got over the course of the last few hundred years is a decline in biodiversity intactness, a decline in abundance of species. So we're not doing a good job here, even though nature provides such value. Okay, moving on to some positive opportunities here. How do we, that was the sort of gloom and doom to a certain extent. We need nature, we're not funding it well. How can we do a better job? And that's what we do with conservation finance. We define it as mechanisms and strategies that generate, manage, and deploy financial resources and align incentives to achieve conservation, sustainable nature conservation outcomes. And so that's, generating, managing, deploying, and then aligning incentives, which is really the only way to get long-term impact. We did produce just and released last year practice guidance for protected and conserved area finance. Obviously, parks and reserves are one of the ways that we do manage and protect nature. We have big ambitions over the world to cover 30% of oceans, land, and water resources in some kind of conserved areas. And but we really need to figure out how to fund all that. You can scan that QR code to download that document. It's a really comprehensive report. These sort of key principles come from that, to try to think about, for whatever finance approach you're using, think about diverse values of nature. It's not just monetary values of nature that you need to think about. Take a rights-based approach. Who has the rights to the site? Think about good governance. Strong institutions are essential for most of these finance mechanisms. Use a systems-based approach. Systems thinking is essential. Collaboration and comprehensive communication is really essential to make sure that all the different perspectives are integrated and the trade-offs are balanced. Take a portfolio approach when you're looking at finance. It's not just one mechanism that's going to solve your local problems. You need to combine different approaches and then think about effectiveness as you go through across the whole board. So when I talk about these, I usually cover, all these different kinds. We call them classes of different conservation finance mechanisms, but I'm just going to do a kind of tour. But just so the diversity of ideas that are out there. Public financial management, public sector is key for financing nature. It is their role and responsibility. There's grants and other transfers. People are quite familiar with that. Economic instruments, I'll talk a little bit about that. There's others here, financial efficiency. Everyone's excited about return-based investments. If we can make money and save nature at the same time, of course, that is the way to really scale up, and different kinds of business and market solutions, as well as risk management. I'll touch on a few of these as we go forward here. One way that brings it all together is tourism finance. And, this is tourism and recreation are one of the key benefits of nature. Tourism industry is a huge part of the global economy. So if we could capture a bit more from the tourism industry, and we do, we entrance fees, things like that, directing that to nature is really a great way to do it. There's benefits of tourism, nature tourism, ecotourism, and that it builds awareness and interest, and it needs to be integrated into a whole management approach at every site. Great organization here, Blue Alliance. They work in the marine space and on marine protected areas. They take on co-management of a lot of these sites, and they bring in ecotourism. They bring in sustainable business to help generate revenue that they use for conservation. They've expanded recently in a few years. They work in Philippines, Indonesia, Belize, a range of other countries, and they're doing really great work. I mentioned economic instruments. One of the categories here, I'm just going to kind of give a quick introduction to these. So environmentally related taxes, green taxes, these are things that can reduce pollution, reduce harm to nature, and generate revenue for a government to be then allocated towards nature. Fees and charges, ways to capture some of the user fees, user pays principles for using aspects of nature, whether it's a non-timber forest product or whether it's tourism. And there's others like tradable resource use permits. Fisheries quotas are an example. They are really interesting market-based opportunity. And then fines and penalties. Penalizing people for harming nature is key for discouraging bad behavior, but it also does generate revenue as well. All these mechanisms, of course, require enforcement. Compensation and offsets, this includes biodiversity offsets and or mitigation banking, things like that, which is a significant mechanism in several countries, but it doesn't work in a lot of countries where the mitigation hierarchy itself is not followed or environmental assessments are not adequately reviewed. And then there's environmentally motivated subsidies, which could be positive subsidies for governments encouraging certain behaviors from the private sector. A couple other types of approaches here. Conservation trust funds. These are been around for about 30 years. They're basically national or regional philanthropies. They generally give out grants, but they're exploring more innovative approaches. And general philanthropy is really a key support system for a lot of innovation around conservation and really important to integrate. So there's sort of standard approaches here. We've been supporting the Coral Triangle Conservation Fund, which is a new regional conservation trust fund in the Coral Triangle, the center of coral biodiversity in the world and a key refuge area. There's another approach that uses conservation trust funds as a core element, and it's called project finance for permanence. It stems from project finance approaches, and this one is really interesting in that some of the partners that are leading this program, called Enduring Earth, are listed below. And it's really interesting. It brings together a range of donors and partners, works with the country to establish clear criteria that the country agrees to. In many cases right now, it's that 30% coverage of protected areas, and the government makes commitment to expand their contribution over time. And there's a single close. All the money is put into a sinking fund, into a conservation trust fund. It's spent down over 15, 20 years or so to reinforce the protected area system. Over that time, the government puts in place new mechanisms and takes on more and more responsibility for financing nature. So really interesting approach, and they're expanding these mechanisms, which have been around for a few years, to over many countries and sites around the world. Another one that I love, this is a conservation enterprise called ibis rice. And the giant ibis in Asia was extremely threatened and nested near rice fields. And Wildlife Conservation Society worked with the farmers there and came up with a sort of a set of standards and an approach that protected the nests and protected these birds. And they used organic rice approaches and sustainable agriculture, and created a brand called Ibis Rice, and they market this brand. This is in Cambodia, and the number of farmers have been continually growing. The product is out there, and you can find out more online. Really great product, and it's certified wildlife friendly. So there's a certification that you may not have heard before. There's also a lot of innovation going on in this space, and here's a shout out to a group based in Indonesia called Lestari Capital, who are looking at ways to work with companies that have supply chains at risk, whether it's palm oil or others, and want to invest in restoring or conserving natural areas, and as part of their business model and as part of their corporate social responsibility. So they work with companies to do that, and a whole range of opportunities and interesting approaches there. In the investment space and in the let's see, venture capital, there's a new venture capital organization called Superorganism. They just announced they'd closed their first round at around $26 million, I think. And they already have a portfolio of a range of companies that they've invested in. These companies are designed to achieve conservation outcomes and make money. So a lot of nature tech approaches, but some really cool companies here that use fungus, that use invasive species, and try to achieve multiple outcomes. Another private equity company, Swen Capital Partners, the Blue Ocean Partners approach here. They looked at what was threatening the oceans and came up with an investment strategy to reduce those threats through strategic investments. A lot of venture as well, but a lot of equity investment, and a really interesting approach there as well. Another similar one, this is Outrigger Impact, and they're focused on small island developing states, or what we like to call large ocean states, and focusing on trying to invest in small to mid-sized enterprise. So smaller investments, but those that are benefiting the blue economy. So there's a range of innovation here. It's still nowhere near what we see in a lot of other areas, but we're hopeful that this will grow. And another example here, this has been funded by the Global Fund for Coral Reefs, which is managed out of the United Nations. And this is a MAR plus Invest project in the Mesoamerican Reef, led by MAR Fund with a range of partners here. And here they do everything from incubation of community-based businesses, all the way up through larger enterprises that are all positive for coral reefs. Now, it's really hard to do that. A lot of the approaches that are positive for nature are actually reducing harm to nature. So improving aquaculture, for example, or figuring out how to use sargassum seaweed that's choking the coral reefs and use it in ways that can produce money. There's a larger type structures as well. Debt for nature swaps have come back into vogue now. There's a coalition that won the Earthstock Prize, or was a finalist for the Earthstock Prize, the Debt for Nature Coalition, a range of large nonprofits collaborating. This has been spearheaded in a way by the Nature Conservancy, who've done a range of debt conversion deals. Just a couple of numbers here, don't get lost in them, but some significant numbers. These are in millions of dollars. Belize, for example, saved almost $200 million in the debt that they had owed. And these were interesting because they're private transactions. Historically, debt conversion was a country forgiving the debt that was due them from another country. In this case, it's been with privately traded debt, and really interesting approaches here that are worth looking at. Another area that people are quite excited about is pay for success models. They're often called impact bonds. The sort of one that was spoken about, the Rhino bond, which is a bit described on the left. But the sort of classic impact bond is not really a bond, but a contract. And the private sector will invest in a solution, put the money up front, and then you have to find an outcome payer, someone that wants to pay for the outcome. This is a philanthropic donation. And if the outcome is achieved, they pay the investor for the money that they put up front with third-party verification. Really interesting approach. Quantified Ventures in the US have been doing this in a range of ecosystems. And there's a small-scale fisheries bond, impact bond run by RARE in Indonesia, which is a really innovative approach for this. The Rhino bond approach was done by the World Bank and other partners, and that's more of a traditional bond where really it's a sustainability-linked bond where the interest payments are linked to a key performance indicators. In this case, it was the number of rhinos. If they grew, the investors would get an extra payback. I'm going to kind of end up with a few more slides here, but I wanted to mention at least blended finance. A lot of these use blended finance, and it's defined by Convergence here, which is one of the leaders in the space. A lot of great information on their website, as the use of catalytic capital from public or philanthropic sources to increase private sector investment in sustainable development, and mobilized over $250 billion to date. Really important because investing in nature is risky and the returns are not as good as you private sector needs. So it's really hard to get the private sector to make these investments, but you can reduce the risk or you can increase their returns, making it a much more interesting investment return over risk for the private sector. And that's what blended finance does. Really interesting approach. And I'm going to end here on biodiversity credits. This is a emerging type of mechanism called nature credits. It's a very diverse area here, but the basic idea is that similar to carbon credits, but it's for nature. And the challenge here is that we don't want necessarily companies to offset their harm, but we want them to contribute to positive outcomes for nature, supporting the ecosystem services and the aspects of nature upon which they're dependent. And so we've been developing this concept of biodiversity credits, and there's a lot of information on the slide here, but the point is that there's a lot of groups are working on standards and mechanisms where a company can make a contribution or investment in nature here, and there's third-party verification and certification that those outcomes were achieved, and really an interesting area to explore. So on that, I want to thank you all for listening. And again, if you want to find out more about the Conservation Finance Alliance, we're an alliance of professionals working on this. Our mission is to promote awareness, expertise, and innovation in conservation finance. We run an incubator, which we're currently doing a webinar series right now. And the incubator is really focused on conservation finance innovation. And yeah, you can scan the QR code to get to our website, and it's been a pleasure. giving you a lot of introductory information to conservation finance.
This has been a fascinating discussion, David. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It is just a vitally important message, hand in glove with the work that others have talked about in terms of climate solutions. So I really appreciate you bringing this perspective to the table at Super Green Live, because if we call it a green world, but there's no nature, I don't know that we've accomplished much. So thank you. I appreciate very much this profoundly important message.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
All righty. I am now excited to introduce our next speaker. Peng-Sang Cau is an extraordinary entrepreneur who built a business and sold it for a big 8-figure amount and is now an executive at Siemens, a global corporation. And she works in the Siemens for Startups area, where she supports entrepreneurs like herself who are trying to incorporate the tools that Siemens has available for entrepreneurs. And I want to note, Siemens is one of the corporations on the planet based in Germany that is deeply committed to being a leader in a transition to a clean, green economy. And so her voice today is just going to be incredibly important. We're extremely grateful. Peng, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my absolute pleasure, Devin, to be here with everyone.
Thank you. Now, did you have some slides you wanted to share?
I do, so let me get that started. Just let me know if everybody can see it.
When you can see it, they can see it.
Okay, that sounds good. I can see it. I think I'm good.
Okay, fire away.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from, welcome. My name is Peng Cau. I've spent my career building hard technology in uncertain times. First as a founder, and now working alongside founders building sustainability critical technologies. Today, I want to talk about resilience, not as a slogan, but as a discipline of continuing to build when the world feels uncertain. If you've been paying attention to the speeches coming out of Davos, you can feel it. The world is unstable. It is strained. Fractures in ways many of us haven't experienced in our adult lives. When global leaders talk today, they speak about raptured, about power being used as leverage, about system we relied on quietly failing. And in a moment like this, something predictable happens. Climate, sustainability, long-term investment, these become later conversations. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Our planet does not pause while we wait for certainty, and the consequences of delay don't show up in speeches. They showed up in people's lives. I'm here today because I've lived through what happens when the world becomes unstable and what it costs when progress is abandoned. I've learned this early. First, as a refugee who lived through 2 wars, and later as a founder building a hard tech company from the ground up. As a child, I learned that the fabric of society can disappear without warning, that stability is never guaranteed, and that waiting for governments or someone else to fix things is often the most dangerous choice you can make. I escaped under cover of darkness. I arrived in Canada with no roadmaps and no visible safety net. That just decisions and the responsibility to keep moving. Years later, that responsibility showed up again, this time in business. When you build a disruptive hard tech company, every decisions carry great risk. There's little room to hesitate. Pause too long, and the momentum dies. Cut corners, and trust erodes. Wait for perfect conditions, but competitors don't, and you failed. This talk is about transformation and uncertain times, and about why progress has never waited for perfect conditions, only for people willing to act when it would be easier not to. Responsibility isn't about controlling conditions. It's about refusing to let difficult conditions become a reason to stop. My understanding of sustainability didn't come from policy or theory. It came from building technology that had to work in the physical world. In the early 2000s, my startup worked with a fuel cell company trying to build next generation battery system. The technology worked. The science was sound. The need was real. But the capital wasn't there. Fuel cells were considered too early, too expensive, too risky. That company didn't fail because technology didn't work. It failed because the capital and market support needed to carry the risk never materialized. A few years later, in 2009, I found myself standing in a red field in Brazil. At the time, the world was hungry for alternatives to oil. Large corporations were investing heavily in sustainability R&D. There was a real sense of urgency that we had to act. One of the world's leading agricultural companies had genetically modified sugarcane to optimize ethanol extraction. My company was brought in to solve the bottleneck. We were hired to design and build a high-speed sugarcane seed cutting technology that could operate at industrial scale. The analogy used to describe the task in front of us was this by a VP: design a new aircraft, build 40 of them while you're still designing it, fly them during construction, and oh, by the way, don't crash that plane or kill anyone along the way. To say that the technology was to say that it was technically challenging would be an understatement. Two companies had already failed. We were the third brought in. This project had strong backing, huge corporate funding, and significant market demand. With that level of support, execution risk was manageable. For a company our size, that was the kind of project that could move us into an entire different growth category. And the technology worked. It performed. But the project still failed because the market shifted. As ethanol economics changed, the company stopped investing. Momentum broke. The program ended, and we almost went bankrupt. That experience stayed with me. It taught me something founders in sustainability learn painfully fast. Even when the technology is sound, progress is fragile. Innovation only scales when markets, capital, and commitment stayed aligned. The fuel cell company failed when capital never arrived. The sugarcane project failed when the market moved on. Different reasons, same outcome. Technology alone is never enough. Sustainability doesn't fail in laboratories. It fails or succeeds in the ecosystem that decide when an innovation is allowed to start, survive, and scale. Today, I work with founders building hard tech in the sustainability space, including energy systems, fusion technology, climate critical infrastructures. These technologies have long development cycle and high burn rates. Building a minimal viable product requires a substantial upfront investment in equipment, facilities, and enterprise-grade software to design, prototype, and validate performance long before a dollar of revenue is generated. That upfront loaded cost collides with a hard reality. Capital is harder to access precisely because timelines are long, while technical and execution risk starts day one. And even when founders push through that early stage, they face another barrier: finding early adopters. Everyone wants innovation. Very few want to be first. When startups are searching for those early customers, responsibility has to move upstream to investors and enterprise partners with the capacity to share risk, so founders are not carrying it alone. Because when momentum breaks, the cost is not abstract. It shows up in technologies that never make it out of pilot, in infrastructure that arrives years too late to matter, in founders who burnt out not for lack of vision, but because the current system of capital, customers, and incentives asked them to carry capital risk, technical risk, and market risk alone. And when risks concentrate like that, we don't just lose company, we lose options for a cleaner, more sustainable future. I joined Siemens Digital Industry Software to lead the startups program because I've lived the founder's life, including coming close to bankruptcy twice without the capital and enterprise support my startup needed to grow and scale. Too many founders are absorbing costs and risk long before they have customers, revenue, or proof the market will stand behind them. They have to move fast while meeting engineering standards that tolerate no failure. They have to preserve runway while proving they can execute technically and commercially with very little margin for error. And they often start with whatever tools they can access, knowing that retooling later will cost time, money, and momentum they don't have. Our role at Siemens is not to tell founder what to build. Our role is to remove friction so momentum can continue under uncertainty. We do that by giving founders access to the same engineering, simulation, and lifecycle tools used to build and scale industrial system, early, affordable, and without compromise, and to help them earn visibility and credibility by telling their story to potential customers, partners, and investors. But removing friction at the startup level is only part of the equation. No single program, company, or founder can carry this alone. Responsibility for advancing sustainability critical technologies does not rest solely with founders. It sits with investors who decide whether they will fund long timelines or demand short-term certainty from long-term problems. It sits with corporate leaders who choose whether partnerships truly share risk or quietly push it downstream. It sits with ecosystems that decides whether sustainability is a slogan for good time or a commitment that holds when conditions turn hard. None of us get to step away from that choice. The planet does not wait for geopolitical calm or market certainty. If we delay until conditions feel safer, we waited too long. Our commitment is clear. We act now while conditions are uncertain, because that's when progress has always been made. We stand with founders doing the hardest work at the hardest time. The future is not shaped by those who wait for certainty. It is shaped by those who accept responsibility and act while conditions are still uncertain. Founders, investors, business leaders, that is our work now. Thank you for being with me today and for listening. I'd like to share, if you'd like to continue the conversation, my contact details are listed. I'm always happy to connect. I'm not quite sure what that last slide. So there we go. You can always scan the QR code to book time directly with me on my calendar. I've included a link to the Siemens for Startup program if you'd like to learn more about how we support founders. And for those interested in building deeper knowledge, Siemens is offering a free micro-credential course on sustainability. It actually started yesterday, so you want to register right now. I provided the QR code, so thank you so much.
Fantastic. Peng, thank you so much for being with us. What a great presentation. We've got just a few minutes. Do you have the patience for a couple of questions?
Absolutely. Always delight to share thoughts and comments with the audience.
Well, thank you. You know, your journey, every step is remarkable. I always ask my guests on my TV show about their superpower, and I look at what you've accomplished and done over the years, from I think, if I understand correctly, refugee status, leaving Cambodia, going to Canada. That's a pretty rough start to life. That's a challenge, right?
Yes. Didn't speak a word of English. We arrived
Now,
in Canada with just the clothes on our back. So, yeah.
I look at what you've accomplished, and there's no question you are a remarkable, truly extraordinary human being. What is your superpower?
I think it's refusing to let bad things happen, make you a victim. You know, going back to being resilience. And I grew up in a very conservative family. So I grew up hearing what I can't do because I was a girl. And I think just having the confidence in believing myself and not let other people narrative define who I am. So I think it's those two things. It's just, you know, you got to believe that you can do whatever it is you want to do and go after it despite the noise. And the noise could be, you know, friends and families who think they have your best interests at heart, but only you truly know what you're capable of, and you know, just go and try it. And if it doesn't work, you pivot and you keep trying until you know you achieve your dream. And I think that's it. It's nothing. There's no big secrets in that front.
It is, you know, that resilience and that confidence in yourself. Those are essential elements, I think, for all entrepreneurs who want to do something genuinely new. Well, even if you're just trying to open a small business, those skills are relevant, right? Because nothing in life is genuinely easy. Well, watching Netflix. Okay. That's easy. But there's so many, you know, things with meaning, things with significance are hard. As you think about the journey you've made, what was the biggest hurdle you faced, and how did you overcome that particular hurdle?
I think a lot of the time the hurdle is usually internal, right? Is when, you know, I was, like I said before, was told that I wasn't even allowed to leave home to go to university because I was a girl, an unmarried girl, you know, in the traditional Chinese culture, don't leave home. And having to secretly apply for university for scholarship to try to get out. That I would say was significant because leaving home, leaving the safety net to travel 3,000 kilometers away from that and being on my own was truly kind of the first time where the world was open to me. I wasn't forced into someone else defining what I was able and or can and should do. And it was just like, well, I'm just going to try and do it. And I think it's not even like conscious decision to try per se, right? But just keep doing stuff. I think that would probably be the hardest, because once you break that barrier, then every other problems or every other challenge come along the way, you gain the confidence to say, well, if I could do that, because the hardest part is fighting your own family and the societal expectations of what you should be. If you can fight those, you know, 1,000 years of expectation of what good Chinese girl look like, then you can just fight pretty much anything that comes along the way, right? I mean, there are real physical issues, and I think it's delusional to believe that, you know, life is one smooth, long path. It isn't. It doesn't work that way. And so when you can fight these problems, and a lot of time it's that internal battles, and then there's the external conflicts that you have to address along the way. If you can overcome that, everything else is secondary after that. It's like, well, if I did that, then everything else, it's easy, right? So I'll give you an example. In 2012, I was going through a divorce, 2 young kids. My company was at the verge of bankruptcy. And I was talking to my sister. You can imagine how difficult life is. You know, divorces are difficult. You have a company that's almost bankrupt. You have employees waiting for you to solve problems. You have children waiting for you to fix their pain. And I remember talking to my sister once, and she said, "You've gone through 2 wars. You live in a refugee camp. What can't you do at this point?" And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you can find your line in the sand to say, I've done all these things, what else can't I do? It reframe your thinking, and then allows you to address any problems that comes along the way. And from a founder's perspective, the reality is you're constantly battling challenges every day. And so you have to find that strength internally and the confidence to believe that you can solve the problems that comes along your way.
That really is, I think, a profound insight for all of us to emulate, right? I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's deeply personal, but I think it's illustrative, right? We can learn from that. And so thank you.
My
You've
pleasure.
accomplished a lot. We have just, a minute or two
I don't know,
left.
Devin. I don't know. There's still a lot to be done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're not done. You're right.
Nope.
But you've accomplished a lot. As you reflect on your accomplishments, what is the thing you're most proud of having done?
Without sounding corny, and I won a lot of business awards, and I think the first business award that I won, I was inducted into the Kingston Business Hall of Fame, and I brought my 2 children. My son, I think, was only like 7 years old. And I think at that moment, it really hit me that all these awards, all these external validation didn't mean anything at all. It was the relationship, was having the kids in the room. So, without sounding corny, what's the greatest accomplishment I've done is that looking at my 2 children who are young adults, and they don't need me. They've lived their own lives, or, successful in their own lives for the age that they are in. And I think that's I would say the biggest accomplishment, because I was not, as a mom who tried to build a company from the ground up and did a lot of the travel that I did, the stuff that they went through, and to see where they are today, that makes me feel like I've done something amazing and awesome. And also building Transformix with the partners that I did and the employees that I had. I still miss those guys. When I think the greatest gift any founders can, or anyone actually, the greatest gift you can give someone is the gift of employment, because employment allows them to live the life they want to live, allows people to have the confidence that you see when they're doing something that they're proud of. And so to me, those are the 2 biggest pride that I have in the journey that I've traveled so far.
That's quite an accomplishment. And I, as a parent, I can relate a little bit. That there are times when you say, wow, I'm not home as much as I'd like. I'm away. I'm working long hours. Is everything going to be okay? And so I can empathize with your sense that, boy, it's great to see that your kids grow up to be successful adults. That is an accomplishment. But of course, Transformix also a point of pride. And so congratulations on all of that.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Peng, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you representing Siemens for startups today. It's just been great to have you. You're a delightful human being. You and your team have been great to work with over the months that we've been organizing and planning this event. So thank you very, very much. You've just been great. We wish you every success in the great work that you're doing, especially driving the transition to a green, clean economy.
Thank you, Devin, for having me. Good
All
luck,
right,
everyone.
I hope you'll
Thank
take
you.
a minute. I hope you'll take a minute and pop into that backstage VIP area. I know people are just dying to talk to you there if you have even 5 minutes. So we sure appreciate it.
I would be delighted to. Thank you.
Peng. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
All righty, folks. We have had just an extraordinary start to the day. This first opening session has just been gonzo in my mind. I mean, we had Omashar perform, Prince, the CEO and founder of Cineblock Films, spoke, and then David Myers talked about conservation finance. What an important message. And now we've just heard from Peng-Sang Cau. Man alive, what a great start to the day. We're now going to pay a little homage to our sponsors, and I want to recognize that they make this possible. We don't do this event without the support to make it work. And thousands upon thousands of people are watching this or will watch part or all of it live or recorded. It's playing on E360 TV around the clock for 3 days. Holy Toledo. Lots of people are watching. None of that is possible without our sponsors. As you watch the sponsor messages, I invite you to think about how they might be able to help you. I appreciate you being here.
Welcome to SuperGreen Live, the biggest event of the year at the intersection of climate solutions and impact crowdfunding. Upgrade now to VIP for just $25 to get the full experience. VIP tickets include access to and a listing in the VIP directory, a backstage pass during 24 hours of live programming, 3 VIP networking sessions, speaker slides and handouts, and an invitation to the private LinkedIn group. Scan the QR code now.
Raising capital, it's not just marketing, it's securities law. Most deals, they don't fail because of the returns that are offered.
They fail because of compliance mistakes.
And that's what we do
Every day, we help entrepreneurs raise money the right way.
before problems ever start. If you're raising capital,
Talk to crowdfunding lawyers first.
Digital Niche Agency is the top investor acquisition agency. DNA has helped founders raise over 9 figures via regulated investment crowdfunding with a 3-pronged strategy using digital advertising, content marketing, and strategic outreach. Book a call today.
Hello, my name is Brian Figueroa. I'm the CEO of Green Tech. We're a renewable energy development company that specializes on cutting-edge technologies like graphene batteries. Get back with me at brian@greentech.io, TEK.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gene Massey with Media Shares, an equity crowdfunding marketing agency, and we're happy to be participating in SuperGreen Live.
Green to Gold and the Super Crowd wish to thank our supporting sponsors, Azure Printed Homes and Little Toes, for their financial support. We similarly extend gratitude to our media sponsors, Regenerative Media TV and Community 3.0X. SuperGreen Live is hosted by the 501c3 nonprofit Green to Gold in partnership with the Super Crowd, Inc., a public benefit corporation. You can make a tax-deductible donation to support our climate-focused collaboration at 4sc.fund/donate or by scanning the QR code. Help us accelerate climate solutions now.
Welcome back. What a great day. We've had 2 great days. We're well into day 3 of SuperGreen Live, and I'm blown away over and over by the great presentations, the great people, the great discussions, the great topics, the great performances. And I am really proud to be able to be a part of this effort. And so I thank you all now for being with us and for being a part of it too. Our next speaker is Sam Daly-Harris, and Sam is the founder of Results, an organization that has literally had a direct impact on saving tens of millions of children's lives. I am so proud to have Sam on the program today. He's also the author of Reclaiming Our Democracy, Every Citizen's Guide to Transformational Advocacy. Sam's been on my show a number of times over the years. I've gotten to know him well. He is a great human being, a powerhouse leader who is revered and respected by all who know him. He has served on the board with Nobel Peace Prize winner and interim president of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus. He's a big deal. We're honored to have him on the program today. So please welcome Sam Daly-Harris. Sam, how are you?
Great. Can you hear me well?
Oh, yeah. We're hearing you just fine. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. Did you have slides? Remind me if you wanted to have slides. Okay, great. Well, listen, let me just give you the stage. Take it away.
Thank you. So thank you to Devin and to Alan Tratner and to all the participants for your inspiring work. While this presentation is titled Rescuing Democracy for Planet and People, and it's focused on democracy and transformational advocacy, you should also listen for insights useful to your work as entrepreneurs and innovators. So I'm going to start with an email letter that I sent after the election in November 2024 to hundreds of journalists. And this is what I wrote them. For many Americans, the November 2024 election delivered exhaustion and divisiveness. After the election, Tom Nichols wrote in The Atlantic, Americans must stay engaged and make their voices heard at every turn. Liz Cheney tweeted, citizens across the country now must be the guardrails of democracy. But most Americans still wonder how, and even if, they can make a difference between elections. What are the options? Protests? Very important, but we also need people going inside. 2, signing email form letters, which only 3% of congressional staff say is highly effective, often gestures. 3, taking a nap until the next election, sadly the preferred route for many, but few in your audience, I wrote the journalists, know about number 4, transformational advocacy, which helps you change an issue and changes you in the process. The book, Reclaiming Our Democracy, includes stories of people who met with elected officials on the other side of their issue, like Ellie Sparks, who went from experiencing what she called climate trauma to meeting with her members of Congress and calling the experience sacred and profound. And people like Lisa Jordan, who after meeting with congressional offices in Washington, D.C., said, this work is the best medicine for when you're feeling hopeless or have sleepless nights. It's the best way to avoid despair. Both Ellie and Lisa were talking about their experience with transformational advocacy, the focus of this conversation. In the next 18 minutes, I'll share a powerful way to make a difference in our world and heal our democracy. It's not the only solutions needed, but it's one essential missing piece, people awakening to their power. So I'm going to start now with my story of self. The story of self was developed by Marshall Gans, a professor at Harvard, and it basically asks, what happened in your life and what decisions did you make that got you to this commitment? And I'm going to tell my story of self, but think about yours. What happened in your life and what decisions did you make that got you to your commitment? It's basically described as knowing your why and sharing it. And whether you're in business or in advocacy or anywhere else, sharing your why is really important. Here's my story of self. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in music, and I played percussion instruments in the Miami Philharmonic Orchestra for 12 years and taught high school music. And 45 years ago, I founded the Anti-Poverty Lobby. Results, and a lot of times people ask music, poverty lobby, what's the connection? And when I look back in my life, there's certain experiences that start pointing me in a different direction. The death of a friend around high school graduation in 1964, and the assassination of U.S. Senator Robert Kennedy around college graduation in 1968 got me to asking the questions of purpose. Why am I here? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? 9 years later, it's now 1977, I'm invited to a presentation on ending world hunger put on by the Hunger Project. And I go to this event thinking, well, hunger is inevitable. What do I know? I'm a musician. I mean, I'm thinking it's inevitable because there must be no solutions. Again, what do I know? I'm thinking because if there were solutions, somebody would have done something by now. But I go to this event and right away it's obvious there's no mystery to growing food, clean water, basic health, literacy. I'm not hopeless about the lack of solutions. I'm hopeless about human nature. People will just never get around to doing the things that can be done. But there's one human nature I have some control over, my own, and my questions. Why am I here? What am I here to do? So I get involved in a big way. This is the end of the story. In 1978 and 1979, I spoke to 7,000 high school students, classroom by classroom, on ending world hunger. And before I went into the first classroom, I read some statements from the National Academy of Sciences Food and Nutrition Study calling for the political will to end hunger. So I asked 7,000 high school students, what's the name of your member of Congress? I don't want to know if you wrote them. I don't want to know if you, just the name. Out of 7,000 students asked, 200, fewer than 3%, could answer correctly. 6,800, over 97%, could not tell me the name of their member of Congress. And results, this anti-poverty lobby grew out of this gap between the calls for the political will to end hunger on the one hand and the lack of basic information on who represented us in Washington on the other. So that's my story of self. What happened in my life and what decisions did I make that got me to my commitment? Think about yours. What's your story of self? What happened in your life? And share it with others. This next story is from an interview I did on a national radio program in the United States. It goes to 350 stations. It's called 1A. And this was question number 2 that really speaks to our predicament. Question number 2. The passive nature to our politics now, you can feel beat down by, this is national radio. The host is asking me this. The passive nature to our politics now, you can feel beat down by it. I mean, this is my career, he said, and I feel beat down by it. It's much more of an effort for me. I don't participate the same way others do because I'm a political journalist, but I do have to pay attention. It's a grind. It's a grind, Sam. I mean, I know you know that. What am I feeling? What is the way out of that? That was question number 2. The first thing I said to him was, Apollo astronaut Rusty Schweickart said, we aren't passengers on Spaceship Earth. We're the crew. Well, are we? And if we're crew, how does crew operate? The second thing I said was futurist and climate activist Alex Steffen said, in fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. Well, yeah, if I'm cynical, I'm obedient to the way things are. I'm not going to do anything about it. Why would I if nothing I do makes a difference? So the main presentation idea is transformational advocacy, not transactional, sign the petition, transaction complete, not transactional advocacy, but transformational advocacy, where you're trained, encouraged, and succeed at doing things as an advocate you never thought you could do, like meet with a member of Congress or Parliament and bring them on board to your issue. And when you do those things, you see yourself differently. You see yourself in a new light. That's the transformation. So, one other thing that I want to make you aware of, if you'd like to connect, if you'd like to join the Civic Courage mailing list, if you'd like to have me connect you with an organization that works to deliver transformational advocacy, if you know of a speaking opportunity for me with your company or your class or your place of worship or your club, you can go to reclaimingourdemocracy.com and click on sign up to learn more. And that's my sign up sheet, reclaimingourdemocracy.com. Click on sign up to learn more, and you can let me know that you'd like to connect in some way. One quick story. It's about a woman named Maxine Thomas who lives in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the United States. And Maxine said to me, I had a heart for service, but I was clueless about advocacy, especially political advocacy. But then she got trained, and then she had a full day of meetings, first ever meetings with her members of Congress. And she said, I was euphoric. I was on this high and felt I was part of something revolutionary. From I was clueless to I was euphoric, that is transformational advocacy. So, how do you find an organization that's committed to delivering transformational advocacy? What do you look for? 3 things. Number 1, recruitment and community building. Recruitment. The organization brings people in, not just to build an e-blast list, but to form them into local chapters so you're not working alone. That's the recruitment. The community building might be a monthly whole of organization webinar with guest speakers, Q&A, inspiration. So recruitment and community building. 2, training. How do you get the meeting with the elected official? How do you plan for the meeting? What do you ask for in the meeting? How do you write a letter to the editor? True, training. 3, breakthroughs. The organization encourages its members to move through their comfort zone because confidence grows and transformation happens when you're encouraged and supported in doing things you thought you couldn't do and then succeed in doing them. In the book, Reclaiming Our Democracy, there's this drawing, a small circle labeled your comfort zone, and next to it is a much larger circle labeled where the magic happens. So you're looking for an organization that will help you get out of your comfort zone and over to where the magic happens. So it changes people, but does it bring change to an issue? As Devin was mentioning, over the last 42 years, Results, the volunteer advocacy organization, has played a lead advocacy role in what's amounted to a nearly 66% decline in global child deaths, saving almost 10 million young lives a year compared to the early 1980s, when Results volunteers started lobbying on child survival in the early 80s. UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, was reporting that 40,000 children around the world were dying every day from largely preventable things, measles, coupled with malnutrition. And Results volunteers have lobbied every year for 42 years, and the global child death rate has gone from 40,000 a day to 13,100 a day, still too large, but still a 66% decline in global child deaths through this transformational advocacy, meeting with members of Congress, meeting with editorial writers. Here's evidence that Results' efforts played a key advocacy role in this nearly 66% decline in global child deaths. After Results volunteers generated 90 newspaper editorials in 1986, supporting a tripling of the Child Survival Fund, the head of UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, Jim Grant, said this in a handwritten note to results, quote, "I thank you in my mind at least weekly, if not more often, for what you and your colleagues are accomplishing. But I thought I should do it at least once this year in writing." That was 1986. 27 years later, in a New York Times interview in 2013, former UNICEF Deputy Executive Director Kul Gautam said, quote, "To a great extent, it was because of the receptivity created by results that the U.S. funding for child survival increased so dramatically, and that led many other countries to come on board. And 9 years later, in 2022, Peter Sands, the head of the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, said this on a national results webinar, quote, "I know how powerful your voices and efforts are. We see that in the way you go up on Capitol Hill and talk to people from both sides of the aisle. They're hearing from across North America that you care about this. This is one of the most powerful ways in which America leads the world." I'll get to the bad news in a moment. Imagine being part of an advocacy organization that's played a lead role in what's amounted to a 66% decline in global child deaths over the last 42 years. Then Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Marco Rubio entered with their demolition derby to global health programs. But there's a glimmer of hope. In fiscal year 25, last year, the Maternal and Child Health Program in Foreign Assistance, which was one of the drivers in the drop of child deaths, was funded at $915 million. The president's budget for FY26 proposed a 91% cut from $915 to $85 million. But the House and Senate, not the Democrat, the House and Senate appropriators agreed to the full $915 million. So glimmers of hope. Last story and a quote. This is Ellie Sparks. When Ellie Sparks told me this story, she was a volunteer in Citizens Climate Lobby. Now she's a member of the staff. Ellie said to me, "When I joined Citizens Climate Lobby, I was suffering from climate trauma. I would read Bill McKibben's book, Earth, and I would weep at home and I would weep at work. And then I joined Citizens Climate Lobby, and 18 months later, I was co-leading a workshop on building relationships with members of Congress and editorial writers. Our executive director said, 'We're betting the farm on relationships. Now go get a relationship with your member of Congress and your editorial writer.' And Ellie said, 'What in the world does a relationship with a member of Congress look like? And how do you get a relationship with an editorial writer?' She said, some in the organization use the model of a work relationship. She said, 'My relationship model is different.'" So this is Ellie, quoted from the book, and I'll quote her right now, quote, "My relationship model is different. I adore romantic relationships, so I use romance as my model. That first meeting with the editorial writer, it's like a blind date, only you've decided beforehand you're going to marry this fellow. You're going to be sweet and interesting, not too intense. If it doesn't work out with the editor, you're going to marry one of his friends at the newspaper, business editor, environment writer, city editor. Someone at this paper will find you interesting and compelling. It's just a matter of being persistent until you find the right connection." Who talks like this? I see the relationship, quote, "I see the relationship with a member of Congress as an arranged marriage. If you live in their district, the member's aide has to meet with you. That's what our congressperson's legislative director told us in January. 7 months later, we've met 5 times with the ledge director. We schedule 45-minute meetings. He keeps us well over an hour. He doesn't want us to leave. Why? Because a good arranged marriage starts out cold and slowly heats up. That's different than a love match, which starts out hot and slowly cools down. And then Ellie shared the essence of transformational advocacy. Quote, during our conference, I met with 20 congressional offices over 4 days. I met with many folks whose view of the world was very different than mine. Going into their offices was hard. I had to let go of a lot of emotional baggage. I could no longer judge them or hold hostility in my heart toward them. I had to let go of my fear of climate change and my fear that they wouldn't listen to me. I had to center myself in love, releasing fear and centering in love. This is sacred and profound work. End of quote. Who thinks about advocacy as being sacred and profound? Obviously, it can become that if you find the right organization and open yourself up to it. So, once more, if you want to connect with me, and I'm going to close with a quote in a moment, you can go to reclaimingourdemocracy.com and click on sign up to learn more. And you can let me know if you'd like to be connected to my mailing list, the Civic Courage mailing list. If you know of a speaking opportunity at your company or your club or your place of worship or class, or if you'd like help in being connected to one of these organizations, and I urge you to click on one that works to deliver transformational advocacy, you would go to reclaimingourdemocracy.com. Here's the closing quote. I'm going to say it twice. It's from Alex Steffen, a climate activist and futurist. Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy with a large population of people who think nothing's going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. What's really radical is being willing to look right at the magnitude and difficulty of the problems we face and still insist that we can solve those problems. Once more, optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy with a large population of people who think nothing's going to get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience. What's really radical is being willing to look right at the magnitude and difficulty of the problems we face and still insist that we can solve those problems. And that's Alex Steffen, and futurist and climate activist. And it's a thrill to talk to all of you. Thank you to Devin, to Alan, to everyone who's participated. And you can come back and join me, Devin.
Thank you so much. Sam, great message. You know, you're such an inspiring guy. I think about all the people in the world who are alive right now because of your work. They don't know it, but they're alive because of you. Millions, tens of millions because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to point out that I put up on the screen the link and the QR code for drawing, and we are conducting a drawing, and one of the big prizes is Sam has graciously offered to provide 5 copies of his book and to appear to do a speech virtually for your group or organization, whether you've got a big audience like ours or 5 people in a living room. Sam will do it for you. So enter the drawing and you'll be eligible to win that amazing prize. And we'll certainly alert you when at the end of the day today about winners. But
Great.
Sam, great message. If you've got a little patience and time, I'd like to ask you a few follow-up questions. Are you good with that?
I am.
Okay. I want to talk with you about how your teachings on transformational advocacy have important lessons for entrepreneurs and innovators in the climate solution space. Let's talk a little bit about a few of those in your book, Reclaiming Our Democracy. One of the concepts is to be unreasonable. not hard to work with, I think you point out, but to be profoundly, unshakably committed to a big vision. Coincidentally, Peng talked a little bit about that unshakable faith in yourself and your commitment to your project too. I think that's interesting, that parallel between what you two have written and said. Um, you've been sharing an interesting quote recently, and I want to just read this quote. Rutger Bregman spoke to the New York Times about his book, Moral Ambition. Stop wasting your talent and start making a difference. His quote: It didn't seem like we had big utopian visions anymore. Every milestone of civilization, the end of slavery, democracy, equal rights for men and women, all these things were once utopian fantasies. And I was like, well, what's the next thing? Give me a bigger vision. Talk to us, if you would, about having a big vision and being unshakably committed to that vision.
Yeah, utopian fantasies. I would just add that when I sat in that, it was the Carillon Hotel in Miami Beach, at that presentation on ending world hunger in 1977, and I made a commitment. I actually took my checkbook out and wrote a check. It was 1977, and I was a school teacher and symphony musician for $5. A commitment in 1977 to ending world hunger would qualify as a utopian vision. And I would say that even today, it would qualify in most people's minds as a utopian vision. And the fact that, well, for starters, I took it, and there were hundreds in the room who made that commitment too, and stuck with it. Eventually asked the high school students, who's your member of Congress? And hardly anyone knew. And so I started Results to create the political will to end hunger. And we lobbied, and still do, on child survival and maternal health because I stuck with it. Now, I'm not full-time on that right now, but because I and the organizations I've worked with and founded stuck with it, the end of world hunger is not ended, but we are so far ahead of where we were in 1977 that it really made a difference. And so, I'm going to talk to you for just a moment because I want to make sure I get this in. I've been coaching this year the United Church of Christ Climate Hope Affiliates. And they started their first chapter last year in March. And by November, they had 11. So they're small. And what they've been lobbying on, and I want to just lay this out, and it's a mini example of the question you asked, because they only started last year. But starting in August, this is what they were lobbying on: the Environmental Protection Agency. President Trump called for a 55% cut to the Environmental Protection Agency for this year. It's not done yet because they're delayed. And the House Appropriations called for a 23% cut, and the Senate called for a 5% cut. And since August of last year, they've been lobbying on this. And because they're so small, they've largely been writing letters to the editor, urging the members of their community to write and call their members of Congress. Well, just a week and a half ago, the House and Senate passed bills that included a 3.5% cut to the Environmental Protection Agency, 16 times smaller than President Trump's proposed 55% cut. Now, that's a mini persistence in terms of that campaign. But I really want people to know that you can engage with others in your community, with your members of Congress or Parliament, with your newspapers, etc., to pursue what might look like to others as utopian fantasy. And in this case, it looks like they're headed toward a cut that's 16 times smaller than the one proposed by the president. So it matters what we do. Yeah, voting is clearly important, but what we do between elections matters too.
Well, I love that message. That is so powerful. I love the example of what a few people, relatively few, 11 chapters scattered, presumably
Yeah.
across the country, have made an impact on billions of dollars of spending
Yes.
for the
No,
environment.
we know, they know, we know they didn't do it alone. But if
Sure.
my letter to the editor, they have had 36 letters to the editor published. They've had 4 op-eds published. So they know if their letter was published, or not theirs, but their chapter members' letter was published, they know that they were in there. They know that if they've written 4 and none of them were published, but 2 of their chapter members have had 3 published, that they contributed to that. And,
Sure.
So while they didn't do it all, mostly we don't know that the president called for a 55% cut to the environmental protection. And if we knew, we don't exactly know what to do about it.
Yeah.
If we kind of knew what to do about it, we might not have support in doing it. And that's what all these pieces where they come together.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
Another of the concepts you talked about in your book, and also you mentioned in your talk today, you talked about the story of yourself, but you talk about knowing your why and sharing it. Why is that so important to the activists you train and to the entrepreneurs and innovators in the climate solution space who are listening today?
Good. So activism can become write this letter, make this phone call, go to this tabling event, do. And the why gets left out. And the why is really, in a sense, what fuels us. The purpose. Why are you doing that? So it really matters to an activist. But if you're an innovator, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to let people know about your why too, not just your product but why have you worked so hard on that? Why will it make a difference? And you need to include that story in all you do. And at some level, I would say, of course, I was an entrepreneur also. I started the anti-poverty lobby results, from nothing really. And, now there are chapters in the United States and Britain and Canada and Australia, et cetera. And so there was a lot of involvement in making something from nothing really expand.
Another concept you talk about is the importance of enrollment. How does that work? And what's the importance to the innovators, entrepreneurs in the group today?
So I'm going to tell a quick story because, again, it's a long story in terms of we were a small little number of chapters, maybe a dozen, because some of us in the LA where we started moved to Berkeley or to Portland, Oregon. So we had a couple of extra chapters. But in 1983, Eastern Airlines, gone, and Delta Airlines used to offer 21 flights for $649 if you did them in 21 days. And at that point, I was a substitute teacher 5 days a week. And I would take a 3-week leave from substitute teaching and go on the road on one of these 21 city trips, starting chapters all over the country. I didn't go to 21 new cities. I'd go to 7 new ones and 7 that I'd gone to the previous months, and then maybe 7 older chapters. I did 5 21 city trips, kind of planting the flag and starting chapters all over the United States in that case, starting the first later 20 chapters in Britain some years later. And so, enrollment, talking to people, getting the word out is really, really important. I'll tell this quick story. It's not the enrollment part as much as getting the word out. I was doing an interview last year on an NPR National Public Radio in the United States podcast. And in my little interview, and it might have been 7 minutes, 8 minutes long, I said, in the early 80s, 40,000 children around the world were dying every day. And I was with the host in the studio, Dominic Montanaro, and two producers were listening on the phone from Los Angeles. We finished the interview, and one of the producers said, "You said 40,000 a day. Did you mean 40,000 child deaths a year?" I said, no. So that's just, again, it's partially enrollment and it's getting the word out. I said, no. And so they started recording again and had the host, "Did you mean 40,000 a day?" And then I clarified it. But that was an example of how important it is to get the word out. I'm going to say one other thing. This really isn't that same thing, but in the last 2 years, I've done 124 talks, not interviews, not TV, radio, podcasts like this, but just presentation to a school group or a club or an organization or a place of worship. A, in my commitment to get the word out and enrollment with my sign-up sheet, but B, to keep me from being depressed, because this constantly telling this story pushes me to be alive to vision and keep the vision alive. So I think it's a really important thing for all of us to realize.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. I'm excited to ask you another question about your work and your writing, but a lot of these ideas are interrelated, and they have just profound overlap across this idea of activists, entrepreneurs, innovators, even investors. An important issue for you is the idea of overcoming the fear of making big asks of volunteers. I think that is hyper relevant. How is that related to another of your concepts, providing a powerful structure of support? What can entrepreneurs and innovators learn from that?
Yeah. So let me tell a story, and then I'll kind of also answer the question. Some years ago, I was talking to the head of organizing for a very large organization. Everyone on this webinar and TV show would know the name of this organization, which I'm not going to say. And the head of organizing said to me, "We can't let our volunteers write letters to the editor or op-eds because they'll get it wrong and misrepresent the organization. Protecting their brand was more important than empowering their members." And one of the groups that I mentioned that I'd coached, Citizens Climate Lobby, the year before COVID, their volunteers had 3,400 letters to the editor, op-eds, and editorials published. One group was saying they'll get it wrong and misrepresent the organization. Citizens Climate Lobby was saying, what do we have to do to help them get it right? And give that to them. And as a result, they generated 3,400 letters, op-eds, and editorials in 1 year. And so this gets back to the whole issue of making big asks of volunteers. How did they generate? I would assert that only 5% or fewer had ever had a letter to the editor, op-ed, editorial published before they joined CCL. So they had to get training and they had to join a structure of support. And the question is the structure of support powerful? Will it feed you power? And part of the problem is you have to make big asks. And most people and most organizations are afraid of making big asks. Maybe it's in your financing and fundraising, or maybe it's of your employees or whatever. are afraid of making big asks of volunteers or anybody else in your life. And so I'll give you one example. So when we're starting a chapter, let's say there are 20 in the room and we want to start a chapter in your city, the big asks are to join this chapter. We're asking you to participate in 2 meetings a month. One is a national webinar with guest speakers, Q&A, etc., inspiration. And the second part is we're going to start with a 4-part new group training every week for 4 weeks or every other week for 8 weeks. That's a big ask. And most are afraid to make that kind of ask. And if you don't make it, people don't join a powerful structure of support. And if they don't join a powerful structure of support, they don't get training they need. And if they don't get training they need, they don't accomplish much. And so, you can't, people won't join a powerful structure of support without having a big ask made of them. And so we have to get over that fear of making big asks. In my world of volunteers, but of course, I think it's relevant to all of our work in one way or another.
Yeah, I see this tremendous parallel with asking investors, and I think it applies equally to your crowd investors and your institutional significant investors, right? Your big angel investors. They want to be asked to help, right? If there's something they can do to add value to the organization, which they have a share in,
yes,
they want to help, right? So you got to ask, right?
And they also want to know your why. They want to know the nuts and bolts and the numbers, but they are in this field because they're trying to fulfill their own why and their own sense of purpose and need for purpose. So yes, the big ask, but also in a sense, the story of self and sharing your why, knowing it and sharing it.
Yeah. In your book, again, Reclaiming Our Democracy, you write, in working with grassroots advocates, one can often hear a staff member say, people are too busy to get involved. People are too busy for gestures, for going through the motions, but there are always those who will find the time to make a real difference. One's idealism and inspiration should not be surrendered or lost in the petty pace of everyday life or to cynical social pressures to be practical and realistic. How do you connect this idea to the work of climate innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors?
Well, okay, so I'm going to hone in on one aspect of it, and it's the aspect of collecting no's. So it's really important. I mean, when I'm coaching a group to start chapters, they have to find a host who can get 5 to 10 people together in a room, and we'll talk to them every week to answer questions and say how the inviting's going and inspire each other. Well, you better get good at collecting no's. No, I won't be the host. No, I won't invite people. No, I won't join the chapter. If you're not good at collecting no's, you're not going to make it because you have to collect no's along the way. And so I have probably written, I'm going to make up, I've written 600 journalists, most often about a specific piece of theirs where I quote back to them a portion of a piece they wrote, and I say how it connects to reclaiming our democracy. 200 have written me back and asked for a copy of Reclaiming Our Democracy. 400 have essentially said no by mostly not writing me back. So we all have to get good at collecting no's on our way to our innovation, our company, in my case, our advocacy work, etc. So it's just an essential piece of the puzzle. I'm kind of expert at collecting no's. That's my world. It's like the more no's I can collect, the more yeses there will be buried inside all of that avalanche of no's.
You know, that may be the most profound thing we've heard all week at this event, because entrepreneurs just face a barrage of no's, and it can become
Devastating.
genuinely disturbing. And so to shift the mindset, to be able to say, yeah, that a no is just part of the process of collecting yeses, right? That, you know, for every 99 no's, there's a yes, and that yes is what catalyzes, right? So
Hopefully it's a little better average than that, but yes.
yeah. You know, with investors, in a way, in crowdfunding, we often see that it takes about 50 or 100
Okay.
visits to a crowdfunding website to get an investor. And so it really is pretty close to that. But it's an interesting ratio. I don't know how it is exactly with angel investors. It's probably a little better than that ratio when you're talking to them face to face. But interesting idea. Another idea you talk about in the book, in the section titled Overcome Fear and Catalyze Breakthroughs, you write, for a citizen to go from not knowing the names of their members of Congress to having deep, trusted relationships with them requires a series of breakthroughs. It requires moving out of our comfort zone. That is essentially the definition of a breakthrough. Seeing something that seems difficult or impossible, feeling some discomfort in taking it on, and then with coaching and support, passing through the discomfort to experience the joy and accomplishment on the other side. Talk to us about that and where the magic happens drawing that sort of illustrates
Yeah,
that.
again, it's like I was clueless about advocacy to I was euphoric. And that's the breakthrough. That's the transformation part of transformational advocacy. And it started in her comfort zone, and it's uncomfortable when you're moving out. But the net result was I was euphoric. I was on this high and felt I was part of something revolutionary. That's her whole phrase. From I was experiencing what I called climate trauma to sacred and profound. Well, if I'm experiencing climate trauma, the way to get over, in her case, to sacred and profound is to move out of her comfort zone, which might be not doing much of anything, to an uncomfortable point. And for her, it might have been trying to reach out to that editorial writer or going to those 20 congressional meetings. And then she ends up at sacred and profound. So that is the journey of transformation. That is the journey of breakthrough. The moving out of our comfort zone to where the magic happens. And the thing that I'm proposing in transformational advocacy is having a structure of support, not doing it alone, getting training and getting encouragement to make that move rather than doing it all alone, rather than doing it all on your own. And so, in your own companies and in your own work, wherever that is, do you have the structure of support? Are you getting and giving the training? Are you giving the support for people to move out of their comfort zone eventually to where the magic happens? That's the journey. Comfort zone, uncomfortable, breakthrough.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a practical, clear kind of step-by-step guide to success. That's really, you know, the mindset part of it, right? Which is difficult. That's a challenge for all of us, to embrace the difficult mental and emotional challenges of doing big things. And entrepreneurship, innovation always feels challenging. If it were easy, it wouldn't require an innovator, right? It would just happen. Um, you urge advocates to practice partnership, not partisanship. And I think that's especially important right now. What are three questions you have volunteers ask when they're meeting with a member of Congress who opposes their bill?
Yeah. And I wonder when this would work for an entrepreneur. I wonder when this might work in a meeting with a potential investor, but I'm going to do it with the activist. They're meeting with their member of Congress, and I coach them to ask three questions. Question number one: we know you don't support this bill. What would it take to change your mind? Two, could you say more about that? Three, why do you think that is? It's essentially a deep listening exercise. When people talk about what do you do about polarization, the big word they always bring to it is curiosity. Well, these questions are all about curiosity. We know you don't support this. What would it take to change your mind? Could you say more about that? Why do you think that is? Those are the three questions. And I wonder if those kinds of questions, you don't support this company, this investment. What would it take to change your mind? Could you say more about that? Why do you think that is? And I think it could be useful in all realms.
I think adapting those three questions and just going through that deep listening exercise is really helpful with investors. That is, I think, a profound insight, right? You've helped move people from one position to another for a generation, well, maybe two, right? You've been doing this for a minute. And the reality is you've learned a lot about human nature and the psychology without having a degree in psychology. You have this profound lived experience about how our brains work. And I can see how if you're talking to an investor, there'd be this desire to talk, right? Investors always think they're smarter than entrepreneurs. It's my experience. And so I can see how you get them to talk enough. You might also be able to find the hooks to be able to say, okay, I can do this differently, or maybe I didn't communicate this effectively. Let me, there's huge opportunity. That's a profound insight. Again, folks, Shannon has gratefully put up the link for the drawing. And again, I think it would be wonderful for you, any of you, to have Sam come and speak to your group and share some copies of his book. He's an amazing speaker, as you know now. You've heard him speak. No one wiser in the space, I mean literally in the world, in terms of building a grassroots movement. No one better, period. End of story. That's it. He's the man. He's the guy. He's the one. So enter to win the drawing, s4g.biz/drawing, scan the QR code, enter, and we'd love to have you. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. You've devoted a lot of time to us on a Saturday. We genuinely appreciate that and wish you continued success in your efforts to protect the climate, save children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. And now I'm going to hear the Cleveland Orchestra play the Verdi Requiem. And people can go to reclaimingourdemocracy.com and click on Learn More if they want to connect.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sam. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All righty. We have had, just a gonzo first half of the day. I think we had Sam and we're not done. We've got some great more stuff. I'm getting so distracted. I'm just overwhelmed by the conversation with Sam. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. The theme for the afternoon now really is going to be primarily about sustainable fashion. And our next speaker is really and truly I mean, she's a powerhouse. She has organized a global effort to put women in charge of women's fashion, you know, removing some of the omnipresent folks who look like me that sometimes still dominate a space that is for women. And so she's moving that needle. And she's doing it with a focus and an emphasis on sustainability and climate. So I am just thrilled to be able to introduce Patricia Langen to the stage now. Patricia, are you there? Patricia. Hang on, everybody. Oh, there you are. So glad you're here. I was a little bit afraid that you weren't there. Thank you very much. I think these are your slides, right?
They are.
Okay. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you. Am I going to be able to advance the slides myself?
You should be able to.
Okay, great.
Just click them on the little thumbnail at the bottom.
Got it. I want to thank you so much for inviting me, Devin. And also, I am so thrilled to follow Sam Daly-Harris. It's like he's sort of a hero to me. I've been in the international development field for many years, so it's amazing. So for my presentation, and it is the full 18 minutes, I ask the rather provocative question, what is sustainable about fashion? So you might be here because you like provocative questions. You might have your own opinions about what's sustainable or not sustainable about fashion. But I hope that by the end of the presentation, you'll have answers to that question, what is sustainable about fashion? And as a consumer or investor, you'll have steps that you can take yourself. And also, I hope that you'll want to learn more. And I hope that you'll stay in touch with us at Women for Women's Wear. So let me start by introducing Women for Women's Wear and why women are important to sustainable fashion. So we are the community of women in the US who want to find and buy ethical and sustainable fashion designed and or made by women more easily. And we also support women-led brands to be more ethical and sustainable. And I welcome you to join us. That's the QR code. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's free. We curate brands, we map cities, and we run really fun events like the fashion show that Devin and Alan and I have put together that is happening at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, we operate from the thesis that the more fashion brands that we can encourage to operate sustainably, the more impact we can have. So why do these brands not operate sustainably now? Last summer, we interviewed fashion brands to understand why they don't operate sustainably now. And at the end of the presentation, you can get that research. I'm going to give you a QR code for that. Our research focused on women-led brands. So why were we focused on women-led brands? Well, preliminary evidence shows that women-led brands are more sustainable and ethical. They're more eco-conscious. They tend to be more transparent. They're supportive of ethical labor practices and gender equality. They actively invest in workers and their health and also in the communities around them. They preserve cultural assets like artisanal skills, and they're concerned with human health. For example, the impact of toxic chemicals both on their workers and also on their customers. So our research found that despite the accomplishments that women-led brands have achieved to be more sustainable, they still face big obstacles, and the fashion system is really stacked against them. So I thought that I could just give you a little background on the fashion industry. It is dominated by small and medium-sized enterprises. At least 80% of businesses in the fashion value chain are small, meaning they have less than 500 employees. But they generate a lot of jobs in every country where you find them. And also, most women-led brands are small. So small companies, especially women-led ones, face serious challenges to financial success and longevity. All right. As I said, the fashion system is stacked against women-led, sustainable, and ethical fashion brands. So this slide shows the biggest challenges that they face. The blocks that you see in blue are typical that small business challenges that small businesses face. So, for example, you see unpredictable business environment. Well, that's the tariffs that many of them are facing now, etc. The green blocks are additional blocks that challenges face who are trying to be sustainable. And the pink ones, you guessed it, the pink ones are additional challenges that women-owned companies face. So right now, you probably know that less than 2% of all venture capital goes to women-led firms. There's a block there that says underrepresentation. Women are vastly underrepresented in leadership roles, even in the fashion industry, where 60 to 80% of all people who work are women. Okay, so this limits their influence and their negotiating ability. Admittedly, we need way more research that builds on my preliminary findings from the summer, and I welcome collaborators in research. So you see where the 7 arrows are. This is where Women for Women's Wear works. We address the problems with, we help educate consumers on sustainability. We facilitate market access. An example is the fashion show that's coming up on SuperGreen Live in just a few hours at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So join us. We helped curate that. We also advise startups working on sustainable material sourcing and verification, reducing fragmentation in supply chains, et cetera, in these other areas. So we just talked about the challenges that fashion brands face to be more sustainable. And why really is it important for fashion to operate more sustainably? Well, it's because fashion really is dirty. And I don't mean in the sexy way of being dirty. I mean, it is dirty. Fashion is estimated by multiple experts, including McKinsey, BCG, Boston, all sorts of them, to be probably the 4th dirtiest industry in the world, after fossil fuels, construction, and agriculture. And there are 3 main ways that it's dirty: greenhouse gases, natural resource use, and hurting human health and biodiversity. So just examples, and you may have all heard this, landfills with textiles are choking off development and creating huge environmental impacts in countries like Ghana and Chile, and the other countries to which countries like the US exports its textile waste. Textiles, especially synthetic textiles derived from fossil fuels like polyester, decompose, releasing greenhouse gases like methane, leaching toxic chemicals into soil and water, and contributing to microplastic pollution. So, question is, here's another question. Do you contribute to that waste? Most likely. On average, an American throws away 80 pounds of textiles a year, and less than that, 80% of that is recycled. Okay, so let's just talk about greenhouse gases. The upshot is that in terms of greenhouse gases, in 2024, there was 1.2 metric tons of CO2 equivalent emitted, which was 7% higher than the year before. So despite all these companies' commitments to reducing greenhouse gases and the talk, the problem's actually getting worse. And the amount of greenhouse gases that fashion industry emits was the equivalent of what France emits in a year, or what international flights and maritime shipping emit in a year. Okay, these greenhouse gases are driven by increasing proportions of fibers from fossil fuel, such as virgin polyester, and then continued overproduction of textiles and apparel. So don't forget that today, at least 60% of all textiles are made from fossil fuels. Okay. All right, another interesting statistics, because as Devin mentioned, I am going to talk about women, is that these environmental impacts probably hurt women most. When you look at the fashion value chain, as I said, 60 to 80% of everyone who works in the industry is a woman. And most of those women work in the parts of the value chain that emit the most greenhouse gases. Okay. They also are underpaid, and they are deeply affected by these environmental impacts, both at work and at home. For example, in Bangladesh, the average temperature has gone up to 108 degrees. Okay. These people do not have air conditioning in the factories, or most of them, and they don't have air conditioning at home. So imagine what that living like that is like. All right. What are the two other, I'm going to quickly run through the two other reasons that fashion is so dirty. One is natural resource overuse. Fashion wastes vast resources, not only in terms of the textiles that are derived from fossil fuels like polyester, but also fibers from organic sources like cotton share the blame too. These cotton, for example, and other natural fibers that are grown, they use too much water, they tear down forests, they use too much land, and an example is that one cotton t-shirt requires 2,700 gallons of water to make. And don't even ask me how much water jeans take to make. So this puts strains on farming systems and soil and ecosystems. Third way that it's really dirty is basically pollution and its effect on human health and biodiversity. The chemicals used in fashion, especially in the dyeing and finishing processes, hurt the health of workers, and increasing evidence shows that it hurts us too, wearing the clothes. There's increased allergies, respiratory problems. They've seen risks of cancer, especially from chemicals like PFAS and formaldehyde that are used. And I will tell you that most of what all of you and me are wearing right now is dyed with synthetic dye that comes from fossil fuels, heavy metal, and coal tar. Okay, so let's get back to our question. What is sustainable about fashion, right? I've just sort of showed the glass half empty point of view. It's really dirty and you might feel hopeless, but I encourage us to look at the glass half full point of view. There are many solutions out there that have already been developed. It's a matter of us as consumers and as investors making the right choices. Technology and knowledge exist. The laws exist increasingly. This industry is being regulated. Systems exist. We need the will to scale the solutions that exist. It's about changing behaviors and making the right choices by consumers and investors. So I'm going to bring you back to that research that I did over the summer where I talked to women-led brands. These are 4 representative stories that we heard, and they actually helped me figure out what those blocks are for companies being more sustainable. And again, at this QR code, you can go directly to the research that we did and hear the presentation I did if you're interested. Okay, so let's focus on the glass half full for the rest of the presentation and the decisions that are in front of us. What are the right choices that consumers and investors can make? On the consumer side, it's mainly behavior change and educating yourself. You can do that. You can learn from Women for Women's Wear. You just go to that QR code and there are all sorts of resources and you learn about sort of what your values are, how you can align your look with your values, where to go to shop, etc.